I'm glad to have you on the program where we bring you the news stories that matter most to conservatives all over the state of Tennessee. And if you are joining us for the first time, you can go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com and get additional updates where we go into these articles more in depth. And we don't cover every story during the news break, we hit the high points, and I'm super excited to have you joining. If you are joining our newscast here, and if you're from somewhere in Tennessee, go ahead inside the comments section and just let me know that you're here, and post the city that you're from in Tennessee, or if you're watching this from somewhere that's outside of the state because you like to keep up with what's going on in your home state, that's great. Again, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com for more in-depth stories. And when you do, if you click that red support button, if you give any amount, because it costs about $300 a day to run our little news organization, we'll send you two Proud Tennessee Conservative bumper stickers. And if you give $50 or more, you will get this Tennessee Conservative tumbler. It says Proud Tennessee Conservative. It's kind of hard to see there, probably. But everything that goes in it uh, comes out better than when it was put in there. If you put in Schlitz into this, it comes out a premium IPA. Water is turned into wine. Thank you, Michael, for joining us, buddy. I'm glad that you are here. Thank you, Garth from Savannah. Glad that you're here. Glad that y'all are tuning in. Let's get right into the headlines, guys. And if you've got commentary on these stories as I share them with you, if you will go into the comments section and just start a conversation of your own. I always try to get back to those. Sometimes I can't do it during the cast because it's distracting to me, and I'm a man and I can only do one thing at a time. So let's get right into it. First story. So Bill Lee reintroduces the mental health trust fund proposal. Now, Governor Lee presented a renewed $250 million proposal on Monday that would provide mental health services for K through 12 students in Tennessee. The push comes as concern over mental health has increased throughout the COVID-19 pandemic. And so here's the thing that all these stories come up, especially a lot of the stuff that's happening in the legislature right now and with Governor Lee. They did all this stuff to us with mismanagement of coronavirus and taking away liberties, and in particular, um, the issue with children irks me the most because they were not at risk of COVID contracting it or spreading it to any degree, and we have created a huge mental health burden on our children that was completely unnecessary, and leaders failed to really safeguard these kids, and it's shameful. And now, we're having to come up with legislation to address problems that we created ourselves, and the government always wants a big pat on the back, right? They make a catastrophe, and then they want to take your taxpayer money and mine to go fix the catastrophe. So, pandemic related school closures all over the past year, back to the article, have caused many parents and professionals to become concerned about the increase in mental health struggles faced by children. In a news conference on Monday, Governor Lee made reference to this. Quote, mental health challenges for young people are complicated, and they are challengingly stated. It's important more than ever. The challenges of the past year have complicated those mental health challenges for kids. So the state money will be used to fund the program initially, and later funding will come from the interest that is generated by that investment. Lee said he wasn't exactly sure how much money would do that as of right now. The important thing is that we have increased mental health services to kids. By what venue that happens is not as important that it does happen. So here's the thing, guys. Y'all made the mess. Clean it up. I mean, this was completely preventable. A recent report from Mental Health America ranks Tennessee as 28th in the nation for overall mental health and 34th in youth mental health. The same report says that mental health among young people is declining, with 9.7 of American children being diagnosed with severe major depression. That is not very good. Next story. Bill to level playing field for Tennessee small business heads to Lee's desk. Now, all of you watched as small retailers, especially and service businesses, were basically shut down, not by anything federally, but by our own state government. If you or anyone else experienced great hardship during COVID-19, and if your business was disintegrated, or rather, excuse me, was discriminated against, it's the fault of our leaders. It's not your fault. It's not COVID's fault. And they sat on their hands. The legislature did, the Senate and the House, while all of this happened. And now they're trying to ride up on white horses. But it's better late than never, right? The Tennessee legislature has discussed many policy changes in reaction to the government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic, including how restrictions affected small businesses. Senate Bill 474, dubbed the Business Fairness Act, was approved by the House Monday 90-0. You know your government screwed up and really stepped in it when it passes something like this 90-0. It allows businesses, regardless of size, to remain open during health emergencies as long as they follow government issues, safety precautions, and guidelines. Government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers, Representative Dennis Powers, Republican of Jacksboro, said during a brief discussion about the bill on the House floor. We've seen big box retailers stay open while small businesses were operating at 50% capacity or closed altogether. And you watch these heavy handed tactics. I remember watching the police come in to a small man's shop in Gatlinburg who was just selling, basic essential supplies, but because he wasn't a big box retailer, because he didn't get the blessing of Governor Lee and the legislature who sat on their hands, they shut him down. And I watched a lot of people who have venues, music venues, restaurants, they closed their doors forever. They're bankrupt. And what is the legislature going to show up in their golden years and fix the retirement that they screwed up for them? Probably not. No, all we can do is make this lame law that should have been imposed at the beginning. But again, better late than never. Government should be in the business, or going back to the article here, they can follow any guidelines, state or local, that works best for them. The Senate approved the bill 28-0 last week, and it will now head to the desk of Governor Bill Lee. While discussing the bill earlier in the month in front of the House Business and Utility Subcommittee, Representative Eddie Manis, Republican of Knoxville, noted the effect restrictions had on his business during the pandemic. This is great legislation, Manis said. As a business owner who actually was impacted during that time, I lost 100% of my business during that year. You could go to Lowe's or Home Depot and see the big box stores just booming. And I often stood there and wondered, is this really fair? And it's not fair. And I would say, Representative Manis, you're absolutely correct. I wish all had had the courage and the strength to stand up to Governor Lee early on in this, and we wouldn't have the need to pass a lot of this stuff. Next story. Tennessee Guardsmen returned home after 11-month deployment. And I'd like to take a moment here to thank all of our men and women who serve in the military and who put themselves in harm's way, especially, having to deal with the government bureaucracy. And I would just say in the comments section, if you know of someone who was hurt by the restrictions in their business, let us know. Thank you, Mr. Metalsmith from Nashville. Welcome. Glad to have you on the program here, bud. I don't know what MBITN, I think that might be Middle Tennessee or some kind of abbreviation. Thank you for coming. I'm glad you're here. But if you know of somebody who was affected by the COVID lockdowns, shutdowns, etc., put it in the comments section. Let us know your story. So back to this one about the Tennessee National Guard. Can you imagine being out of the country for the last 11 months, especially with everything that's going on with COVID? More than 100 soldiers assigned to the Tennessee National Guard's 252nd Military Police Company returned home on Friday, March 26, after an 11-month overseas deployment as part of Operation Enduring Freedom. These Tennesseans were mobilized just as the COVID-19 pandemic began, said Major General Jeff Holmes, Tennessee Adjutant General. They overcame countless challenges brought on by the many unknowns at the beginning, and they were adaptive and agile and focused on their mission. I'm proud of the great job they did and how they persevered as they exemplified selfless service. So that is awesome. Welcome back to everyone who is out there in the 252nd. Our hats off to you. We appreciate you doing what you did, being away from your friends, being away from your family. It's very difficult. And these are units that are headquartered out of Cleveland with a detachment in Oneida, and they were mobilized through this past April. So shout out to all those families around the Cleveland and the Oneida area. I was actually driving through Cleveland, and we'll be driving through Cleveland and that area again tomorrow on my way back home to Hamilton County. So, on the national level, voting rights, deep philosophical divides underpins policy gulf. So Biden has rejected the Republican-controlled state legislators' attempt to impose new safeguards and rules on voting after most states offered expansive mail-in and absentee voting during the pandemic, calling them sick and pernicious. Then he accused Republicans of, drumroll please, racism. It's always racism. Labeling a new Georgia election law worse than Jim Crow. No, Jim Crow was bad, and Democrats did it. Your party did it. And y'all are always trying to divide and manipulate people along the lines of race and gender and class, which is what you do. And it's a pretty good trick because people continue to fall for it. And Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer accused Republicans of trying to disenfranchise minorities. Of course, that's always got to be the deal. So I think Rand Paul had a neat comment where he said, if you think that it's perfectly okay that folks should have to have a vaccine passport, and that's perfectly okay, but showing somebody your voter ID to vote, now that's completely racist and awful. Well, then, he said, I think you need to have a conversation about public policy. Philip, I'm glad you're here from Manchester. Gary, thank you for joining us, buddy. I appreciate you there. Glad you're here and tuning in. Uh, Good to see you. Now, back to the story here. So, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell took his turn at the podium. It's Democrats who should be ashamed. He countered for trying to push through a partisan power grab, which is what this huge House Bill 1 is, to cement many of the expensive mail in and absentee provisions implemented during the pandemic while trying to jettison existing security measures, including removing dead people from voter rolls. Only Democrats would want to keep dead people on the voter rolls. States not engaged in trying to suppress voters whatsoever. This is clearly an effort by one party to rewrite the rules of our political system, McConnell said, for all 50 states from here in Washington. That's the reason we don't have a one-size-fits-all government. That's the reason that we depend on the states to put those things in place so that we have our own governance when it comes to election law. And Gary, I do agree, Chuck is a fool. Moving on to the next story. On the local level in Hamilton County schools announced summer reach program and proposed budget to address failures in literacy. As we all know, in Tennessee, only one out of three children can read at grade level, and that was a pre-COVID study. I bet it's probably down to about one out of four, if I had to guess, with the way that they're going. And this summer, Hamilton County Schools will be hosting a summer reach, and the program will be for select students, approximately in 40 different sites across the district. And it'll be in 2 3-week sessions starting in June 7th through the 25th, and then again in July 11th going through the 27th. And the initial budget is to improve literacy, increase compensation for staff, and to continue address facility needs, increasing early post-secondary opportunities, etc. So there's a budget if you want to go to the original article, and all of these articles are longer, and you can read them in more detail at TennesseeConservativeNews.com, and you can sign up for that free e-newsletter that you can forward to your other conservative friends. And Johnson said about the 21 to 22 school year, we want to be clear that we fully plan to be in school 5 days a week as normal. We'll make determinations on mask requirements later in the summer as we continue to monitor cases and vaccine access. I think making kids wear a mask in a forcible way is child abuse. I'm just going to throw it out there. I see these kids out there that aren't at risk of COVID having to spend hours and hours with their face covered up, where they can't communicate, they can't express each other, they can't see one another smile. I think it's child abuse, and I think that they should not be doing it. I think if parents want to do it, that's their prerogative as a parent. But I think when the government steps in and tries to force that on your children, it's child abuse. And I think shutting down schools when taxpayers are footing the bill, and when you're being paid to be there in person, and when you bought the ticket and you took the ride as an educator or board, I believe these people have done a great disservice to our children all over the state, from the governor to the state legislature down to the school boards. All these people that have put these kids through this remarkable hardship ought to be called for account during the primaries that are coming up. And I hope some people in these elections will find themselves without a job so they can get somebody else in there that can do a good job. Next story. Kids and Pros Football Clinic returns to Chattanooga. Kids and Pros Football will be celebrating their 11th year in Chattanooga this year with a free 3-hour clinic at the Boyd Buchanan School. It will take place on Saturday, April 10th from 9 a.m. to noon Eastern. Buddy Curry, former NFL All-Pro linebacker and former NFL All-Pro cornerback Bobby Butler are co-owners of the camp and work together with other former local pro and college standouts, along with local coaches, to teach kids basic football techniques, and they use football to teach kids 5 core principles, which I think these are all important: sportsmanship, integrity, excellence, perseverance, and teamwork. Maybe they could go down to the Hamilton County Board of Education. Maybe they could go down there and teach them about the 5 core principles of sportsmanship, integrity, excellence, which 1 out of 3, 1 out of 4 kids reading, that's not excellence, Hamilton County, or Tennessee in general. Perseverance, which means you got a problem, let's fix it, and teamwork. And the team that you really need to work with is the taxpayer. And the clinic will be free for kids 7 through 13. All right, guys, listen, those are your stories. I'm glad that you came here. Philip, thank you for coming on to the program. Daniel, thanks for showing up. I appreciate you coming. I don't know what we're going to do about to combat executive orders on gun control. I think we just passed a permitless carry. I'm probably going to be doing an interview with the Tennessee Firearms Association maybe on Friday, if not next week. It was not the best of the bills, but it was a step forward in the right direction. I'm glad we're moving there. Guys, go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, and if you support at $50 or more, we will send you this proud Tennessee Conservative tumbler. I've been drinking things out of it on my vacation with my family. I think you'll enjoy it. And if you give any amount, even a piddly $10, because it costs us about $300 a day to bring you the news, then we will send you a proud Tennessee Conservative bumper sticker. In the comments section underneath the video, you can click that link and it'll take you right to the support. Guys, I enjoyed being with you. If you would, please go to TennesseeConservativeNews.com, click the support button, and share our articles. A lot of you know conservatives that you're friends with in your neighborhood, people that you know from church. I'm going to close with this. For those of you that are the hardcore hangers on, okay, you're still here, even though we're done with the news. If you're a Christian and you did not get to go to church last Sunday on Easter Sunday, and if the government shut your church down, or if even your own church leaders in a misguided fashion shut your church down, I'm going to recommend that you go grab a friend, you grab a relative, you grab a coworker, and you be in a house of worship on Sunday to celebrate the fact that he has risen. And culturally, the church is the thing that lets people know that they're free, and that they're free in the gospel, and a free people are hard to rule. Once you know that you're free and that you've been given freedom, they're hard to rule. And so if you would, go and support your local churches, get in your congregation, take somebody with you, and let's celebrate Easter Sunday and gather together with the saints if you're out there watching. Brandon Lewis here with the Tennessee Conservative News Break. I will see you all tomorrow. Take care, guys. Love you. Be good.